We looked at how to split text frames into multiple columns in an earlier chapter. You simply select the text frame, go to the Object menu, choose Text Frame Options, and then change the number of columns in the Columns area. I'm going to change this to 2 columns and click OK. This text frame is 2 columns now, but the heading itself should only be 1. It should span across both of those columns. Now, I could cut those paragraphs out and put them into a different text frame, one that's only a single column wide, but there's a much easier way to do it. I'll switch to the Type tool by double-clicking inside this text frame, and then I'm going to select those 2 paragraphs. Now, remember, you don't have to select the entire paragraphs. Just have a little bit selected of one, a little bit of the other, something like that. Now I'm going to head up to my control panel, and I'm going to look at this pop-up menu here. This is called the Span Columns pop-up menu, and right now it's set to None. But you can see that you have various options in here, including Span All, Span 2, 3, 4. That's talking about columns. How many columns should this text span? In this case, I only have 2 columns, so it doesn't really matter which I choose. I'll choose Span All. You can see that now these 2 paragraphs span both columns in this text frame, and this looks great. Now I should point out that this Span Columns feature only works in multi-column text frames. If this were 2 different text frames that were threaded together, Span Columns would not work. I also want to explain a little bit about what's really going on under the hood here. When you choose any of the span features, InDesign breaks your page, your text frame technically, into zones. So right here, we have a Span All zone. It goes all the way across the text frame. Then we have a zone underneath that, which is 2 columns. That takes up the rest of the text frame. But if I come down here and type a blank line, and I'll just type some text in here, my new heading. There you go. And then I'm going to go up here and span this. I now have 4 different zones. I have this zone at the top, which is this heading that spans across the text frame. I've got another zone here, which is just this bit of text, and that is in 2 columns. Then I have a third zone, which is my new heading. That goes all the way across. And finally, I have the rest of the story here, which is these 2 columns. If you keep that idea of zones in mind, you'll really be able to manage your spans better. Now, in this case, of course, I don't want that paragraph, so I'll triple-click on it and then delete it. In the old days, before we had this Span Columns feature, you had to go through all kinds of crazy workarounds to span text across columns. Now, it's just a pop-up menu away.